In the 1950s, a survey team arrived in San Tome, and they brought with them a Bell helicopter. I talked to the director of this outfit to see if I could bum a ride and make a overflight of San Tome and take some movies of the San Tome area. He wasn't too enthusiastic, but finally he agreed and turned me loose with his pilot to make the flight. And here we are making a flight in this helicopter. I wasn't prepared for the bumpiness of the ride. I didn't realize that helicopters bump as much as they do. But at any rate, here we are approaching the San Tome area from the west. As you can see, San Tome is rather a green oasis in the middle of this savanna land of eastern Venezuela. The reason it's an oasis, it has plenty of water and plenty of fertilizer. And as you can see, it's right in the middle of an oil field. This is a gathering station just on the northeast corner of San Tome. And the houses were generally constructed of concrete blocks with asbestos roofing and strand steel. Very little, no wood used in the construction at all. And somebody got the bright idea of importing some prefab houses from the United States. And these white houses we see right here were called Fleet Alcombe prefab houses. And they bought a whole bunch of them, as you can see, and installed them. That's the second row of white roofs there. And they lasted about 10 years. And then the termites got into the insulation and they had to be torn down and rebuilt using the materials that the termites couldn't get into. Here we're looking at some of the original tin huts that were used during the early construction of San Tome. They were torn down just a few months after I made those photos. In the distance you can see the main office building, and on this side is the Petroleum Engineering Laboratory. I was the director of that laboratory. And on the left-hand side, that small building is the Ministry of Mines and Hydrocarbons building. And on the far side, that little building was a storage shed for files of the accounting department. And we had a agronomist and a nursery, and he produced all the greenery for San Tome right here in this nursery. With fertilizer and plenty of water, it just sprang up. Here we're looking at the club area. That large building there is the movie house. The pool is kind of hidden behind some palm trees in the foreground there. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of construction going on in the left-hand side of the picture there. But this was the early 1950s and boom time in San Tome, and they just couldn't build houses fast enough to keep up with the influx of new employees. The clothes on the line is our house. Dorothy was washing the day I was up flying in the airplane. And this is a more distant shot of San Tome. In the distance you can see a column of smoke, and this was very common in the area. When they brought in a well, they had to produce oil and water and some mud and other junk to clean up the well, and their usual practice was just to burn it off. There you can see the Fleet Alcombe houses in the foreground there, and this is the hospital area. We had some great doctors there. Dr. Tulio Bassano was in charge of the hospital, and he had some great doctors. Fritz Peterson was a world-class surgeon. And this is the industrial area, and the far part was the transportation yard. And the rest of it, this is the warehouse and machine shop, the welding shop. The warehousing was quite a job to stock in Venezuela, because you had to anticipate about 6 months before you needed the stuff is when you had to order it, and was not easy to keep up with it. Here's the main office building again, and you can see the employees made their way back to their bachelor's quarters across the fields. See the trails up there, but it was short walking distance from the office. These are the Parkersburg huts. They're temporary housing units, 15 feet wide by 30 feet long. And when you first came into there, married couple, that was your home for about 2 or 3 months until you could get a permanent housing unit. This is the swimming pool at the club, and our children tell us that they cannot remember the day when they did not know how to swim. It goes back that early in their age. In the lower left-hand corner is the soda bar. This was the home of Nino's famous pizzas, and they still talk about Nino's famous pizzas. This was our first housing assignment, number 855A. It was a 2-bedroom house, H-style, and after Priscilla was born, our second child, we were assigned a 3-bedroom house, but this was a very comfortable 2-bedroom house. Here we're looking at the mess hall in the near foreground, and the commissary behind, and the industrial area behind that, and then on into the South Camp area, which is the home of the daily roll Venezuelan workers. Hospital again. And this is the commissary. A very good commissary. And this is the club in the South Camp, and the school in the South Camp. They had full facilities down there. The houses were smaller, but adequate. And the long building there was a market. Every Saturday morning, Dorothy would go down there and buy her vegetables, and they were good vegetables. This is the Catholic Church. The priest there was named Padre Arias, and the American Legion had a monthly bingo game, and we held back 10% of the total take, which we gave out in benefics, and 50% went to the Catholic Church and 50% went to the Protestant missionaries. And of course I got to know Dr. or Padre Arias very well, and he's a fine gentleman. We got along famously. This is our junkyard. I think most of the junk was worn out boilers used on the steam drilling rigs. Again, the hospital. A very good hospital. Good doctors. In the middle of the scene there, you can see the San Tome Staff School. And our children have very fond memories of the staff school. Just a few miles north of San Tome was the Westwater field, and they had a gas injection plant there. They had dehydration facilities. They had gathering facilities, and they also had 5,000 kVA gas turbine generators that generated the electric power for the entire area. That included all the pumping units in the greater Officina area and as far north as Anaco. It was a very dependable source of power, and later when the trees became so thick that the breeze was cut down and it got a little warm in San Tome, we had some free electricity too. The roads were a mixture of oil and sand. They were pretty good roads, but they were very rough on the tires. That I could get perhaps 10,000 miles out of a set of tires, and that was the limit. And here we are flying back into the hangar area. Mene Grande usually kept 2 planes in that hangar, a DC-3 and later on an Aero Commander that was kind of the private toy of the executives. They used it to go fishing, and it was a very useful aircraft. But I was very thankful to these good people for letting me make the overflight of San Tome. And here I have one of my men coming out to pick me up in the pickup there. And we gave our thanks to our pilot for a good flight.